Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for The Fox and the Hound, which came out in 1981 and is the fifth movie in Disney's Bronze Age. In a way, you could say that this movie is a spiritual successor to Bambi from 1942. It doesn't really have a full plot. It's more a coming-of-age story that revolves around a fox named Todd and a hound named Copper. They come from two completely different households. Copper is being trained to be a hunting dog, and there's a problem with that because Todd is a fox. So we see them as pups, we see them bonding, and then we see their time apart, them growing up, and eventually becoming enemies. So we've made it to the 80s. This is the first Disney movie released in that decade, and it's also a movie in the Bronze Age that people say is one of their best, if not the best movie of that era. And this is a movie that I've never seen before. I've only seen clips of it through some Disney-related documentaries, like the Pixar Story, because this was actually a movie that John Lasseter worked on as an animator before he eventually became the man that we know, for better and for worse. But I'd never actually watched a whole scene, let alone the entire movie. So this is another first impressions type review, considering that I've never seen an entire scene, let alone the whole movie. And I gotta say, it's actually really good. When I went into this movie, I expected it to be sort of this cute, cuddly movie about two baby animals, and I kind of expected something like the Aristocats. But no, I did not expect the movie that I actually got, because I say that this is a spiritual successor to Bambi. The movie literally opens up with Todd's mother hiding him as she's being chased by hunters, and she gets killed. So take that, Bambi's mom. Todd's mom dies just as the credits end. And instantly I thought to myself, oh, this is not going to be the movie that I thought it was going to be. And yeah, the movie is very mature, it's very dark, and it doesn't really feel like any of the other movies in this era. So when I thought that this era of Disney animation was going to be a slog to get through, I couldn't be further from the truth, because they actually turned out a lot of surprisingly deep and good stuff. So I don't think it had much to do with this particular era as much as it did with Wolfgang Reitherman, because he might be one of the original 9 Old Men and made some of the greatest animated sequences in Disney's history. But as a director, he's not that good. So he didn't direct this one, he's just a producer. And it further reinstates the fact that this is a transitional period for Disney animation, because I mentioned John Lasseter, but you also have Glenn King, John Musker, and Ron Clements working on this film as well. All of those guys, including John Lasseter with Pixar, defined the 90s in terms of animation. But again, we'll get to that before you know it. The characters are fine, nothing too deep about them. Todd and Copper are both very cute when they're animal pups, and when they're older they have to deal with all these really problematic situations, especially a big moment that I'll talk about later that makes them enemies. And one thing I didn't know about going into this movie was who voiced Todd and Copper respectively. Todd is voiced by Mickey Rooney, and Copper is voiced by Kurt Russell. That's right, MacReady himself voiced the Hound in The Fox and the Hound. However, when you really think about Kurt Russell's career and this era of Disney, it's not that surprising, because Kurt Russell was in quite a handful of Disney stuff prior to this, and it's only around this time where he started becoming the Kurt Russell that we know, because Escape from New York came out this year, and the following year he would work with John Carpenter again on The Thing as MacReady. So when his name popped up as the voice of Copper, I thought to myself, what? And then when you actually hear the adult Copper talk, you can instantly recognize that it's Kurt Russell. The animation itself is not all that special. It's the same style of animation that we've seen since 101 Dalmatians, except it continues to be more clean and polished. And I'd say around this period of time, this is where that style of animation has started to look a lot better. And I think within the next couple of movies, it would just improve up until we get to the actual Renaissance. Though I gotta say, that climax of the movie with the giant monster bear is pretty fun. I mean, it's intense, it's exciting, and it really does put you on the edge of your seat thinking, what's gonna happen? Because both Todd and Copper are enemies at this point. The entire climax begins with Copper and his master hunting both Todd and his mate Vixie, and then this bear comes in, and it's a great climax, I gotta say. There are some things that don't work in the movie. The one thing that really drags the movie down, because I think it's a tad longer than it should be, is a subplot involving a sparrow and a woodpecker trying to go after this worm. And there's about 3 scenes dedicated to these characters that contributes nothing to the plot. Even when it gets resolved, it has nothing to do with Todd and Copper's story. So I just thought to myself, this is pointless. This is only here to pad out the runtime, even though this movie isn't even an hour and a half long. And then the last thing I wasn't a fan of, and maybe this is just my personal preference, but I think the movie cheats with some of its emotional stakes. Like I said earlier, this is not the kind of movie that I expected it to be, a la Todd's mother getting killed in the opening. And one of the big sequences that happens that pushes Copper and Todd to be enemies is that the other dog, Chief, is chasing Todd all around the forest. Copper lets him go so he can be safe, but Chief finds Todd again. And this ends up with the two of them being on a train track. There's an oncoming train. Todd is able to hide and escape, but Chief gets hit by the train, falls off the bridge and into the river, onto rocks, and I thought to myself, holy shit. When I saw that moment play out, my jaw dropped because I thought, wow, they actually went there. They did something like that. And Copper's just mad. Like, he blames himself for letting Todd escape. And now he's like, if I ever see you again, I will kill you. And again, I thought it was a really bold thing to do. Up until there's a line that the hunter delivers where he says, that fox almost killed my dog Chief. And I thought, oh man, what a cop-out. Like, I thought it would have been better if Chief actually died. That would have made the stakes a lot heavier. But no, he just comes back with a broken leg, and we saw that fall. If you've seen this movie, you've seen how Chief falls. I mean, he got hit by a train, so he should have been dead on impact. But his fall, the fact that he only got away with a broken leg, man, the dog gods must be watching him intensely because he got lucky. But those are the only complaints that I have about the movie. It's well animated, the characters are good, it can get really dark, and it just left me with a good feeling in the end. I'd say it's worth seeing in your lifetime. I don't know if I'd go out to say that I love this movie, and it's certainly not one of my favorite Disney animated movies. It certainly is one that surprised me because I really thought this was going to go one way, but ended up going in a completely different direction, and I think it's for the better. And there you go, that's my review for The Fox and the Hound. Next week we're going to talk about the big Disney movie, and I'm not talking about big in terms of critical success, I'm talking about big in the sense that this movie almost killed Disney, and that's The Black Cauldron. Out of all the movies in Disney's Bronze or Transitional Age, The Black Cauldron and the movie that would immediately follow are the ones that I'm the most excited to talk about, so I can't wait for next week. But until then, I want to know what you guys think about The Fox and the Hound. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my review for The Fox and the Hound. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.